Hey there, and welcome back to the Simple AI Guide, where we take the complicated world of artificial intelligence and explain it in plain English. My name is Hope. Today we are discussing something that you may be concerned about. Is there really an AI job apocalypse coming? You've probably seen the headlines. Robots taking every job. Entire departments replaced overnight. A wave of unemployment nobody can stop. It's even gotten a name of its own, the AI job apocalypse. But is that actually happening? Or is the real story a lot more nuanced than the scary headlines suggest? Today, we're going to walk through what the real 2026 labor data shows, who is at risk right now, which jobs are holding steady, and what you can do to protect your own career or small business, no matter which way things go. Let's start with where this term even came from. The AI job apocalypse wasn't coined by a scientist or an economist. It was coined by the Financial Times to describe a feared scenario where artificial intelligence eliminates jobs faster than the economy can replace them. That's an important distinction. It isn't a scientific measurement, it's a label for a fear, and fear of technology replacing workers isn't new at all. The Industrial Revolution displaced farmhands and weavers. The rise of the internet reshaped retail and media, and every single time, real disruption did arrive. But it arrived alongside predictions that turned out to be too extreme in one direction or another. Think about it this way. When the automobile replaced the horse and buggy, plenty of people who made harnesses and horseshoes lost their livelihoods. But an entire new economy sprang up around cars. Mechanics, gas stations, highway construction, auto insurance, whole industries nobody could have predicted in advance. That doesn't mean the disruption wasn't painful for the people living through it. It absolutely was. But it also didn't mean the end of work itself. Keeping that historical pattern in mind is useful because it's easy to get pulled into thinking about AI as something entirely unprecedented, when in a lot of ways, the shape of the disruption looks pretty familiar. So here's the short answer, right up front. A full-blown job apocalypse, mass, sudden unemployment across the whole economy has not happened as of the middle of 2026. But something real is happening underneath that headline number. It's just concentrated in specific corners of the job market, rather than spread evenly across the whole thing. And understanding exactly where the pressure is landing is a lot more useful than a simple yes or no answer to the question, is it happening? Let's dig into the numbers. Layoff trackers do find AI showing up as a stated reason more often than it used to. Challenger, Gray, and Christmas, the outplacement firm that has tracked layoff announcements since 2023, recorded roughly 55,000 U.S. job cuts explicitly attributed to AI or automation through 2025, and they cited AI as a factor in tens of thousands more cuts in just the first few months of 2026 alone. In March of 2026, AI was cited as a factor in about a quarter of that month's total layoff announcements. That was the first time it topped the list of stated reasons for layoffs. Where the pressure shows up most clearly is entry-level hiring. Job postings aimed at new graduates and first-time job seekers have dropped noticeably year over year. A large share of employers say they've pulled back on hiring for junior roles specifically because AI tools can now handle a meaningful chunk of what those roles used to cover. Things like drafting, note-taking, basic research, first-pass coding, and routine customer replies. At the same time, projections about the future look far less one-sided. The World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report, based on a survey of employers representing tens of millions of workers worldwide, projects that AI and related technologies will displace roughly 92 million jobs globally by 2030. But over that same period, it projects around 170 million new jobs will be created. That's a net gain of roughly 78 million jobs. What we're looking at is disruption and churn, not a one-way collapse. Now, layoff announcements and hiring projections both describe real trends, but neither one tells you whether unemployment overall is rising because of AI. For that, you need labor market researchers who track employment and unemployment data over time, not just headline counts of announced cuts. That's where the picture gets a lot more interesting and a lot less alarming than the job apocalypse framing implies. In March of 2026, economists at Anthropic, the company behind the Claude AI assistant, published one of the most detailed studies to date on how AI is affecting the labor market. They drew on real usage data rather than theoretical estimates of what AI could someday do. Their central finding was this: There is no detectable rise in aggregate unemployment among workers in AI exposed occupations since ChatGPT's launch back in late 2022. The gap between how AI exposed workers and AI insulated workers are faring is, in their own words, small and not statistically meaningful. And that finding doesn't stand alone. A separate analysis of Danish workers by the International Monetary Fund, covering roughly 25,000 employees and 7,000 firms that adopted AI tools between 2023 and 2024, found no significant impact on wages or hours worked. The Stanford AI Index 2026 report, an independent annual benchmark of AI's real-world effects, likewise concludes that large-scale aggregate job losses have not yet shown up in overall employment data. Three separate research efforts, three different methods, one shared conclusion. Nothing resembling a broad jobpocalypse has occurred yet. The same research does find a real effect, just not in the middle of the labor market, at the edges of it. Workers aged 22 to 25 who are entering AI-exposed occupations show a measurable decline in how quickly they find work after ChatGPT's release. The researchers describe it as a meaningful but not yet dramatic signal. A separate Stanford measurement found employment among young software developers down nearly 20% from 2024 peaks. So, the pattern that's emerging isn't mass layoffs of experienced workers. It's a narrowing entry point for people just starting out, in roles where routine, well-defined tasks used to double as on-the-job training. The same research found that AI exposure is currently concentrated among higher-paid, more credentialed workers, rather than low-wage ones. That's the opposite of what a lot of people assume. Meanwhile, roughly a third of U.S. workers in physical and hands-on roles that current AI systems simply can't perform have close to zero measured AI task overlap at all. Why is entry-level work, in particular, so exposed? A lot of junior jobs were never really about the output itself. They were about the training. A first-year analyst spending hours building a spreadsheet wasn't just producing a spreadsheet. They were learning how a business works, one tedious task at a time. When AI tools can produce that spreadsheet in seconds, companies save time and money in the short run, but they may also be quietly removing the on-ramp that used to turn beginners into experienced professionals. That's a slower-moving, harder-to-measure problem than a headline layoff number, and it's one worth keeping an eye on over the next few years. So, who's actually being hit hardest right now? Recent college graduates and early career professionals are seeing the clearest impact so far. A Gallup survey conducted for the Walton Family Foundation in early 2026 found that excitement about AI among people ages 14 to 29 dropped sharply from the year before, while the share who described feeling angry about it actually rose. ServiceNow's CEO publicly predicted in early 2026 that new graduate unemployment could climb well above historical norms as AI agents take over more entry-level knowledge work. Certain industries are moving faster than others, too. Financial services firms have automated a growing share of loan processing and basic back-office operations, and several major banks have publicly tied workforce reductions to AI-driven efficiency gains. And tech companies, ironically, the very ones building the AI tools, have also cited AI directly in a rising share of their own layoff announcements, particularly in software engineering and customer support roles built around repetitive, well-documented tasks. So what connects all these hardest-hit groups? It isn't income level, and it isn't industry glamour. It's task predictability. Roles built almost entirely around rules-based work are the ones current AI systems can do. This includes tasks like data entry, first draft writing, basic coding, and standard customer replies. Roles built around judgment calls in unpredictable situations are, so far, holding up much better. Which jobs are least likely to disappear? Research from career and labor analysts consistently points to the same pattern. Jobs requiring hands-on physical skill, high-stakes judgment under pressure, or genuine emotional connection remain the most resistant to automation. And that doesn't mean these jobs are untouched by AI. It means AI tends to change how the work gets done, rather than replacing the person doing it. Take skilled trades, for example. Electricians, plumbers, HVAC technicians, and other hands-on tradespeople work in constantly changing physical environments that current robotics and AI just can't reliably navigate. Healthcare and caregiving roles are another good example. Nurses, therapists, home health aides, and physicians combine physical assessment, split second judgment, and human comfort in ways AI can support, but not replace. Then there are emergency and high stakes decision roles. Emergency physicians, pilots, and emergency management directors operate in unpredictable, high consequence situations where accountability has to rest with a person. Leadership and legal roles fall into a similar category. Judges, attorneys, and senior executives carry legal and moral accountability that cannot be outsourced to a system, even as AI increasingly handles their drafting and research work behind the scenes. And finally, creative and relationship driven work. Photographers, artisans, event planners, and sales roles built on trust and taste still depend on human judgment and connection that AI tools can assist with, but not originate on their own. A Pew Research Center survey found that just over half of U.S. workers say they're worried about AI's effect on the workplace, and about a third believe it will mean fewer opportunities for them specifically. That concern is completely reasonable. But it's worth noting that the same survey data, paired with all the labor market research we just walked through, points toward task change rather than wholesale job elimination for most roles outside those highly routine categories that are already under pressure. There's a real, understandable anxiety sitting underneath all of this, and it doesn't go away just because the aggregate statistics look calmer than the headlines suggest. If your job touches any of the routine, repeatable categories we just talked about, that worry is legitimate, and it deserves a plan, not just reassurance. Let's talk about what that plan can look like. What can you do about all this? Whether you're managing your own career, running a small business, or just trying to make sense of the headlines, the same handful of moves show up again and again in expert advice. First, learn to direct AI tools rather than just competing with them. Career counselors consistently point out that the people who fare best treat AI as a collaborator they manage, rather than a replacement they're racing against. Basic comfort with tools like ChatGPT, Claude, or Copilot is increasingly treated as a baseline skill, not a specialty. Second, emphasize what only you can do. Relationship building, hands-on judgment, and accountability for outcomes are exactly the qualities the research shows AI struggles to replicate. If your role includes those elements, invest in strengthening them, rather than worrying they'll be automated away. Third, keep learning in small, steady increments. You don't need a whole new degree. Free or low-cost options, community college courses, LinkedIn Learning, YouTube tutorials, and library programs are enough to build real, demonstrable AI literacy over time. Fourth, build real experience, not just credentials. Career advisors point out that project work, whether it's paid or volunteer, that you can point to on a resume or a LinkedIn profile, often matters more to hiring managers than another certificate does. And fifth, network deliberately. Every single labor market study on this list agrees on one thing AI hasn't changed. Informational interviews, mentorship, and professional relationships remain the fastest route to new opportunities. For small business owners specifically, the same logic applies in reverse. Using AI to handle routine back-office work, scheduling, first-draft customer replies, basic bookkeeping questions, can free up your time and your team's time for the judgment calls, relationships, and craftsmanship that build customer loyalty. So, is there really going to be an AI job apocalypse? Based on the data available through the middle of 2026, no broad, sudden wave of AI-driven unemployment has occurred. Multiple independent studies from Anthropic, the IMF, and Stanford all found no detectable rise in overall unemployment due to AI exposure. Real disruption is happening, but it's concentrated in specific areas like entry-level hiring, rather than spread across the whole economy. If you're wondering which jobs are most at risk right now, it's roles built around routine, well-documented, repeatable tasks. Jobs requiring hands-on physical skill, high-stakes judgment, or personal trust have shown far less measurable disruption so far. And if you're wondering why new graduates seem to be struggling more than experienced workers, it comes down to this. Entry-level roles have traditionally been built around the kind of routine tasks that AI tools now handle well. Researchers have found a measurable decline in how quickly young workers in AI-exposed fields find their first jobs, even though overall unemployment for experienced workers hasn't moved in the same way. Will AI create new jobs to replace the ones it changes? The World Economic Forum projects roughly 170 million new jobs will be created globally by 2030, alongside about 92 million displaced. That's a net gain, though the transition certainly won't be painless or evenly distributed. History also supports this pattern. Past technological shifts eliminated specific jobs while creating entirely new categories of work that didn't exist before. Do you need to learn to code to stay relevant? No, you don't. Career advisors consistently point to basic AI literacy, knowing how to use AI tools effectively, as more valuable for most workers than learning to code. Combining that literacy with the human skills AI can't replicate, like relationship building and hands on judgment, matters more than technical depth for the vast majority of roles. And finally, what can you do right now to protect your job or your business? Start small. Build basic comfort with AI tools relevant to your field. Lean into the parts of your work that require human judgment and connection. And keep networking. For small business owners, using AI to handle routine tasks can free up time for the relationship building and craftsmanship that keep customers loyal. If you found this podcast useful, give us a like and follow us. Leave us your comments. If you want the full written guide, head over to AI4everyone.ai. The link will be in the show notes. And while you are there, subscribe to our free newsletter. Every week we cover one AI topic in plain English. No jargon, no hype, just practical stuff you can actually use. This episode was written by humans and AI. It was read by an AI voice. Thanks for listening to the Simple AI Guide. Join us for the next episode.